Are we waiting for anybody else?
I think we're good at this point. John Steele is going to join us a little bit later, hopefully. But otherwise, this is everyone. So
good. Should we call a meeting to order? Do we need to record first?
Hey, Lynn, are you ready to record?
We are recording and streaming.
Okay. So should we call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. IC? And do we need to do roll call first? John, you want to do roll call, or Lynn, or whoever?
I can do it. Go down my list. Danny Schreiber.
Here.
Yep. Scott Irwin.
Present.
Yep. Christopher Owen.
Here.
Yep. John Steele. Nope, not yet. David Taylor.
Here.
Tom Watton.
Here.
James Manning.
Here.
Great. Okay. So I think we have 6 members present today, plus also Betty as well, Betty Avila from Westland Planning, and talk more about this CLG grant. So, okay.
First item on our agenda is public comment related to land use items not on the agenda. Do we have any tonight, John?
I don't see anyone. Lynn, anyone sign up?
No, we do not have any comments.
Okay. Then we'll move on
Point
to...
of order.
Go ahead.
Do you have is James our new member?
Yes, I was going to introduce him as part of the officers section.
Okay. All right.
Is next on the agenda. So do we want to move on to that? So John, I'll let you introduce our newest member.
Okay, great. So sorry about that surprise there. Hi, James. Welcome to the meeting. As I was going to roll into this, James is our newest member appointed by council. He is replacing Jim Young on the board, and his term runs through December 31st, 2023. So he was with us for at least 2 years. So James, you're stuck with us. And would you like to say anything to the group before we get started on the election of officers?
Well, thanks for having me. I was on this historic review board, I don't know, maybe 4 years total. A couple of years ago, I stepped down because of some work commitments, and I have since retired, so I have plenty of time on my hands now. And I look forward to working with you guys.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, James. So with that, now that everyone's been introduced, being the first meeting of the year, election of officers has to happen, and that's specifically chair and vice chair. So I think I'll turn that over to you, Danny, if you want to officiate for that. But it's sort of,
Certainly. Are there any nominees or nominations or self-nominations for any of the board positions, chair or vice chair? At this point, it's me and Scott, I think, right? That's our 2 spots. I am happy to step down if someone else wants to take the chair spot. So,
Well, I personally have enjoyed having you as the chair, Danny. From my short tenure, you have demonstrated you have a high level of interest in historic preservation, and I think that you deserve the role. Not sure where everyone else sits, but he gets my nomination.
I second that motion.
thank you. I will voice a concern for this year if things start opening up again. My availability may become more limited, but that means we'll just fall on Scott or the vice chair, whoever takes the vice chair spot to run stuff. But I will continue to make the best attempt to try to be to the meetings on time as we can. But yeah, I'm happy to continue in it. Again, I open the floor for anybody else to grab it. I know we had no chair for a year or before, whatever it was. But yeah, I can take it on if not. And Scott, are you still okay with doing the vice chair spot?
I will, presuming that you be elected as chair, then I would be willing to be your vice chair.
Is there anyone wants to also try for the vice chair? I don't see any hands. We could always nominate John Steele because he's not here and make him the chair.
That is permissible.
It'll teach John to be not tardy to the meetings. No, I'm fine with that. So there's been a motion for me to be chair. I make a motion for Scott to be vice chair.
I'll definitely second that.
We have a second on that. So do we need to, I think we can go to these at the same time, right, John? I'm assuming we can just vote.
We're
for
a
it.
ticket.
Yeah, we're so all in favor of myself for chair and Scott for vice chair, say aye.
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 Any opposed? In that case, then Scott and I will remain chair and vice chair respectively. I think we can move on to the approval of draft minute notes for December 12th, 2021, last year's last minute meetings. Anyone have any changes or discussion on the notes from last time, the December 21st? I think it's December, it was December 21st, not December 12th, right? Is that right? Yeah, our agenda is incorrect. It's December 21st meeting notes. Sorry. Any discussion on our notes from our last work session? I move that we approve the draft meeting notes from December 21st as presented to us in our packets and on email. Any seconds on that approval?
So move.
That's David Taylor. Any further discussion on it? Let's move to the vote. All in favor of approving the draft meeting notes from December 21st, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. So the draft meeting minutes are approved. Next is our.
Oh, point of order here, if I may inject, this is a public meeting, and if we were not on Zoom, you would have to physically present yourself. So I'm gonna ask James to always have his video on. You could do that, sir. I think that would be appropriate for
Alright.
the.
It
Do
keeps
appreciate
flipping
that.
in and out on me though, so I don't know why, but
Okay, I think as a member of the board, you should be as visible as possible. I understand there will be some technological issues, but I think it's appropriate that we remain visible as visible as possible. Thank you.
yep.
And John, I know we have Betty with us too. Do we want to move up the CLG grant so that Betty doesn't have to stick with us the entire time, just out of courtesy?
Certainly, if you want to change the agenda, you can certainly do so. That'd be fine. And then also, if I could, James, if you're having technical issues, I
Yeah.
can have one of our staff people assist you with that in between the next meeting and this
Okay.
meeting. So great. But yeah, go ahead. If you want to rearrange the schedule or the agenda, by all means. So
I will just make a motion. Is that just out of the courtesy for our guest for the CLG grant? Is that okay for the board if we move item number 6 up to the top? Anyone opposed to that? In that case, we'll turn it over to you. Betty, you can take off so you don't have to sit through our entire argument over the historic review board code.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So last time I was here, it was regarding, I spoke to the city of Westland receiving the CLG grant. And that would be the two components, the virtual tour component and the educational materials component. So we kind of brainstormed what some of those virtual tours would look like and what kind of things we liked, what features we would like to implement in our own. And now I'm here to talk about, go more in depth with the educational materials. So we brainstormed last time, and I think what resonated the most with the group was going ahead and going forward with a welcome packet. And so I did some research and I found some cities or jurisdictions that went ahead and had kind of composed a sort of welcome packet. And I noted those in the memo and I put links with their websites. And I hope that you all have gotten a time to take a look at some of those resources, but I'll go over them here in person as well. Well, not in person, but of course remotely. So up here, I have my PowerPoint right now. And this, let me go ahead and make it larger. Okay. So this is kind of that brainstorming list that we were discussing last time. And then I went ahead and said, okay, well, what really, you know, the other kind of things that we were talking about were more like maybe like events and not necessarily like educational materials for the public to get people more engaged with the walking tour or the historic district. So here are kind of the basic outline of those different jurisdictions that I went ahead and I put in the memo. And let me stop sharing the screen and then I'll just go ahead and just share my entire desktop. So let me escape. Sorry. So do you see right now like the memo in front of you on my Google Chrome?
No, just the agenda. So it looks like we're getting one
Oh,
item
okay.
at a time.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's what I wanted you to see. Okay, so this is kind of the summary. So you see these bullet points right here in my cursor over them?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, great. Okay, so I went ahead and I opened up a tab and I wanted to kind of do this side by side where we go through each one of these and we kind of, you know, I'm completely open. This is like a feedback session, a work session, in order to dial down on what are the components that we like from these other jurisdictions in terms of what we would like to have in our welcome packet. So let's start off with historic Maplewood in New Jersey. So I identified in the PowerPoint presentation here on the right, the kind of key elements that they have in their welcome packet. And so first of all, like here, they went ahead and they started off with an introduction letter. Welcome to Maplewood, and kind of a little blurb about it, when they meet and so forth. And then they speak to those resources that are inside of the packet. Is this something that we would like to go ahead and incorporate into our welcome packet, this introduction letter? And I think we also have to brainstorm, would it be like a postcard that we send out like maybe on a yearly basis? And it be like a link to the city's website, or would this be something that is sent out every year that's actually like a paper copy of these materials? I mean, so there's kind of a lot to discuss. So I guess it's kind of open to, the first question I have is, would we like to see something that's like a postcard, or generally like, here's all the information, paper copies of it?
So I have a question first, Betty. What is the budget on this? That might be the determining factor. If we've got $100,
Yeah,
then that's
so I think when Darren put in the budget, he made it to a lot of the money that was awarded was for the virtual tour. But since we could do it like in-house, I think it's significantly reduced the amount of money to spend on it. So I think he had totaled, I think, about 3,500 for this component. But now that we're going through things, I don't think I think we have more money to play with this educational component of it than we did. If that Does that answer your question, Danny?
That's exactly what I was looking for. And now,
Okay.
is that including the matching funds, or the matching funds are coming from city time, or how are we figuring that into the grant? Because isn't that a 50-50 grant?
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 grant. And okay, off the top of my head, I can't, I think I've gone through so many numbers in my mind that off the top of my head, I don't recall. Let me go ahead and see if I could bring it up. Nope. Where did I put
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think
It's
that's a good way to
okay.
work backwards into
No,
it.
I
'Cause,
just where did no, I think it's Chapeau. So we were awarded 9,000, and so it's matching funds. And no, it doesn't say here. So we were awarded 9,000, and I think
so that's 18,000 then total, including staff
Yeah.
time.
You're awesome. I pulled it up right now. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, he budgeted about 3,000 for the educational materials component of it. So we do have some money to play with for sure, and a lot of the money was spent on that kind of coming to these HRB meetings, and then kind of the materials and equipment, which is like the consultant time. But it's something that we're gonna go ahead and try to do in-house, of course. So it should reduce. We should have more money to play with
Yeah.
than what was initially anticipated.
And for clarification for just all of our board members, this is money that if we don't spend, it just goes away. It goes right back to SHPO. We don't keep it. We're not like we're
Yeah, that's
saving
correct.
money. It's just, this is a grant that'll just go back to the state if we
Mhm.
don't spend it. Okay.
Yes.
So it's to our benefit to spend it all versus going cheap and not spending it.
Yeah, so that's the thing for me. I'm like, okay, would we like to see, I guess going back to my first question, would we like to see like a postcard that's mailed out every year, or just like a brief welcome letter? This is the URL, these are the links that you should read, or should it be just, these are all the components for the welcome packet? Or what would be a good way going forward? Know that with COVID, a lot of things are transitioning to be digital now. A lot of people don't really like paper, just want to toss it. So I guess that's a question for the group.
But, my personal opinion is because I don't get many things in my mail, I get maybe 1 or 2 envelopes, and they're usually bills. When I get something that's of interest, it draws my attention and I hang on to it and I put it on the fridge. That's just me personally. Maybe there's a lot of the new generation people who don't like paper and they think it's horrible, but I know my emails get put into junk mail all the time. I don't look at most of the city emails I get. I have to go digging for them. So I don't think an email is an effective way to do a campaign. I know for my work nowadays, we're getting them like 10 to 20% open rates on our email marketing stuff, which is really, really low when you're doing thousands of emails. But that's my personal opinion. I think something that physical is better. I would, for this one-time introduction thing, I mean, I know the HRB has not done anything in the at least 10 years. I can think of anything from HRB being brought out to the historic area. So I think for an introduction letter and packet, it would be nice to have an actual physical thing. And we might be able to get volunteers to do a door-to-door drop so we don't have to physically mail it. I know I can do that pretty easily. We got the Historical Society. We've got, 300 people who can they do it for us all the time. They just do a door
Mhm.
drop and just drop stuff off on doorsteps.
Oh, that's good. That's really good to hear. Thanks, Danny.
I'm sure we could get that probably coordinated.
I do like the idea of the electronic communications because to kind of jump ahead to the things we like and so forth. I really like the Jefferson Park one that had kind of a web of locations that you can click on the links and so forth, but you've got to get to the site first. And having a link in an email or a text, it just makes it easier for people to access it rather than pulling up Google and so forth. So what I was kind of thinking was the idea. I think it would be great for someone newly arriving to receive a physical paper copy welcome packet. That annual reminder thing that, hey, check to see what's changed. That might be better done on an electronic format.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the other challenges that we have is that we have a lot of owners who are absentee in the area.
Mm,
So you might have an owner and might have their email address, but they're not the people in the building.
right.
They're not the
Mm,
people who are there.
Okay.
And depends on what we're trying to do. Are we trying to reach the owner or are we trying to reach the resident? I think it's both. So an email and both would be a great idea to do,
Yeah.
if we can keep that information. I don't know, does a city have everyone's email addresses too? I don't,
No,
yeah.
no.
I think we have water bill information. I don't know how much we have for email. And personally, I find the city website extremely hard to navigate. And I would hate to direct somebody to it and they go, I don't understand it. And then they walk away upset and mad at us because we sent them to some place that they don't understand what they're even looking at.
Yeah.
That's
I
just-
mean, there's ways, I mean, to make it more legible on the city website, but also it's very limited into what we can do. Like for instance, I just recently kind of did the phase 2 page for House Bill 2001, and it was like I just had limited functionality to what I could do. So it was kind of hard to try to make a page engaging or easy to read when you can't do very much. It's just very basic. So that's something to keep in mind. So are we kind of, does someone else have like any opinion on whether we would prefer to do like the physical copy or kind of like a postcard or just electronic?
I'm sorry. So I've been a part of the member for or the association for a while, but I missed the last meeting, so I apologize. Some of this
Oh,
is
it's
kind of
okay.
new to me. But
Mm.
who are we chasing? Are we chasing the new home buyer into the neighborhood that they're non-educated, or? And I'm sorry if I'm asking something stupid.
Oh, it's okay. Tell
Um,
me.
but so who are we chasing for this request? I guess.
well,
I
I
think
think
we're
some of it
trying to
came
make oh, sorry, go ahead,
obviously
Danny.
because Tom, and you probably know this, we've, at least on my street, I've had 80% turnover in our block in the last year. So I am one of 2 people on my block who are still here that have lived here more than 2 years. And I don't think any of them know they're in the historic area.
And that's exactly why we're talking about educating. Who are we trying to educate? And
Yeah.
so
And then I think some of it is
that's why I'm
also
asking.
we did this over the summer. It was actually our conversation we had, I think, or maybe it was in the fall, about that. I don't think a lot of the neighbors know even who we are or what we are. Actually, I know they get confused between the Willamette Heritage Board, the Willamette Neighborhood Association, the Willamette Main Street, Westland Historical Society, and the HRB, and they just don't know what's who and where. And I know because at the Historical Society, we get calls from people saying, I want to paint my house. I'm like, well, that's not us. That's a historic review board. Or, I want to know the history of my house. And like, well, okay, we can help with that. So there's a lot of that miscommunication, as well as I think what thought of this is that when Betty, and when I've checked it with Darren was presenting the grant, was that we got no applications from our last grant round for people to do to do any kind of construction on their house using the funds from the state. And we felt that was because homeowners didn't even know that these grants were available.
Yeah.
And that's why we got 0 applicants. And I know there was jobs on it. We know there was people doing stuff in their neighborhood, but nobody knew to do anything. So that was my thought on it. Betty, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, oh no, yes.
I-
No, you didn't interrupt me, Danny. I was just gonna say, Tom, that it's to educate anyone who resides or owns in the historic district.
And that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I really quick. That's what I thought. And I know we talked about this probably about a year ago because there's so much unknown when you're purchasing a house in this area, and so I that's I know where it derived from. I was just that's why I was asking if that's still the stream that we're attempting to pursue. That's all.
So in the past, we used to send out a postcard basically that said it was more for the CLG grants that said that monies were available for these houses in this neighborhood in this in this um, area, and we used to get a lot of people applying for that money. It's disheartening a little bit, Danny, to hear you say nobody applied for it because it's free money.
Yeah.
That makes the neighborhood, not only their house look nicer, but the neighborhood look nicer. So we used to do that card, and then we had it go out in the water bill after that card. The card worked really well, and then we kind of refresh people's memory with the water bill, and that worked well in my opinion. With this grant, though, I think there's a great opportunity not only for Historic Review Board, but as Danny said, there's a lot of different organizations that kind of overlap in this area. And it might be nice to have the welcome letter go out and explain what each one of those organizations are and how they could impact or make their neighborhood better. Because I get calls all the time of, hey, I'm new to the area, where can I volunteer to help? And this board is one of them. Historic Main Street is one, the Historical Society is one, parks are another. So you might look at this as more of a a twofold or threefold step on how to get the news out. Start with the letter, CLG grants, send a postcard. If that works well, then you can scale that back and kind of put it in the more generic of the water bill.
What if we do something like we have this letter and it goes inside of and the folder is going to cost money, but you could get a nice little peachy folder. I'm going to date myself, but a peachy style folder, and then invite everybody to put their trifold. I mean, everybody has a trifolder postcard.
Exactly.
And then we could just have the welcome letter from the HRB plus their little drop-ins, which I don't think would cost us anything if everyone wants to put the drop-in in there.
Right. And then in the future, everybody has it electronically also, that in the future you could,
right. And then the future goes forward like that.
You could just have a link of your, because I don't just see this for the historical areas. I see it for every neighborhood association, to be honest, of what goes on in their neighborhood.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I got this where I live in Portland. I got this this postcard, and it's like a bigger postcard, and it details kind of like welcome to the neighborhood, and then it gives me like information like if you ever want to join this, it's just it has a lot of information, and it's like it caught my eye because it was like colorful and it had everything that I needed. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And maybe we could even do a mix of both. And sorry, Danny, I lost you on the PT folder thing. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
PT folder. See, I dated myself right there. Sorry, from the 70s and 80s.
Daniel,
Basically,
Daniel, behave.
Yeah.
A folder, just a folder.
Okay. So maybe I'm thinking like maybe doing like a postcard and having like this information and having it be on the website, but then maybe if someone wants to request like a physical copy, they can do so. Maybe we can work something that way.
Yeah.
I keep in mind that majority of our homeowners are my age or older. I'm still one of the youngers in the neighborhood, besides the new families that are moving in. And we still like paper. I mean, we're all still getting paper copies of our bills in most cases. And I mean, as much as I love an email version or a postcard, I think we need something that they're going to grab their attention. That's going to be, you know, a little bit more attention grabbing than just a postcard. There's stuff you can do. Maybe a postcard would be for year 2 and an email for year 2. And I think a better letter, an introduction, a welcome is a little bit more attention grabbing than that they think we're trying to sell them a couch or a sofa or something, or more like windows, as we all think, you know, the Anderson
The only thing I
windows.
would say about a welcome letter is a welcome letter is great for somebody that just moved to the neighborhood, but more of like you were saying of those postcards, you know, I've seen them where they say this is your neighborhood instead of welcome to your neighborhood, or you know, and it kind of leads them down the path of finding things to do in their neighborhood, like you know, all the parks that are in their neighborhood and all the different organizations and things like that. A welcome, if I got something that said, hey, welcome to your neighborhood, I'd say, hey, you know, I've been here 17 years. I'm not reading that. You know?
I mean, maybe we word it in another way and don't say obviously welcome to Atlanta, but it's a way where it's, you know, we are the Historic Review Board.
Yeah.
John wrote up a really great write-up for the upcoming newsletter for the Historical Society that had a very nice background on the HRB. Actually, it was a nice little history chunk of who this group is and why we exist and what our purpose is. And that would be a great thing. That, I mean, what was it like? It was only a page, I think, right, John? It wasn't
Correct.
huge.
Yeah, a couple hundred words. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I
pretty
mean,
short.
it was a nice little write-up to tell the history of it, that we started, you know, from the county side and went to the, and just how the whole thing exists, which again might help a neighbor go, oh, that's why it is, and what's HRB mean, and which would go right there nicely in that, you know, second paragraph.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just don't put welcome, obviously. We don't.
Hey, can I say I think this whole conversation, you know, it's gone for a little while, but it's derived on the uneducated part of purchasing a house in historic West Linn, right? So I think those are the people that we're chasing. The people that already know, but the people that applied, purchased a house, even though it's smaller than they wanted, because they're all smaller than we want. They bought a house, and our job is to make sure that they're, you know, that they're not miseducated on the fact that they can't double the size of the square footage and make it what they really want for their family, because we have restrictions. This is what we have. That's where I saw this kind of coming from, like about a year ago.
We can also promote the fact that we have grant opportunities and money opportunities for them to take advantage of other positive, you know, there's benefits of it too, not just the negative.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something that we can all learn from reading. I mean, like doing different components. Like, did you know about these kinds of events? Did you know about these benefits, or kind of all these different resources that we can use where maybe someone is in the historic district and they're just not aware of them.
I can't tell how many times I've had neighbors come up to me and ask me for their paint palette. And I keep telling them, we don't have a paint palette. Sorry. Doesn't exist.
Sorry, I really quick. I wasn't trying to be like.
Oh no, it's okay, Tom.
Counter.
I just meant like
The hard part is people want to live in this neighborhood, but they want their house to be twice the size that what they bought, and so that's what we wrestle with a lot. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I'm just thinking, Tom, we
I mean,
in the way to remind them of why they're living in the historic district. You know, that you've got the benefit of old houses, you've got, you know, nearby shops and stores and restaurants, and you've got walking distance to schools and parks, and you are in a protected area where these homes will never be demolished and replaced by condos. And so, yeah, we sacrifice the size, but we don't mention that in the letter. You just tell them all the positives of it. Well, I mean, if you look at some of these other websites, they do that in there. They have their little breakdown of all the positives of why you're in the historic district. And and Tom, you probably know most people who choose to live in the historic district know that they're choosing to live in a smaller house with historic district, and they're not ready to bulldoze the house. If they have, then their realtor did a really bad job.
Well, and I don't know that. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Is when people they come to us when they have an addition to put on their house, and what do, Danny? You know what they do? They try to pull heartstrings on. Well, I have 3 kids,
Yep.
and this and that, and you know what? Yes, they are living in one of the top districts for elementary schools with teachers with master's degrees. We get that, but you know what? Um, uh, we wrestle with the heartstring thing that I wish would be written into our code, so that when it gets to us, we don't have to have those kind of conversations with people in person about them. They're in a divorce and there's the kids, and I mean that has no aspect and that has no basis of what we do and our jobs. But it seems like almost every project that we get, we have to hear heartstring stuff, and I have them, you have them, we all have them, but it's not. You don't go you don't go into a situation like this with that being your argument. We need more rooms, and that's the part that's been kind of frustrating, and I see it continuing to happen because it's a desirable place. It's the best schools for elementary kids around. I mean, we live in it. We're fortunate. We're fortunate. I don't want to go on, but
This is a great way for them to keep to give them that denial that, hey, you know now what you can and can't do. You know you're in a historic district. So
so that's exactly why I'm asking exactly the product that we're putting out there. I think it needs to be really direct and welcome to the community, because we have an awesome community. I'm not going anywhere. I love this place. So
Okay, so again, does it seem like we want to do like a physical copy of this whole welcome? Well, not welcome packet, but how are we presenting it instead of saying welcome? Oh, like here.
educational. Is that okay to
Okay.
say?
outreach
All right.
package. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott.
Okay.
Well, so really quick, you got one in your community when you moved there in what part of Portland?
I'm in the Kearns neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. So you were given something, right?
Hmm.
No, so help us. No, I think this is awesome. I mean, educate us on. I mean, obviously we have a little harder lines with the community, the small 9-block community that we're talking about, but that's exactly what we're looking for. Just educating people so they understand what they've gotten themselves into.
Yeah. Okay. So again, which avenue are we going? Kind of hybrid or?
Scott, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you. One thing so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure there's a high level of awareness within the historic district. I like the idea of a postcard, especially a postcard that has a very attractive photograph, because then that is something that someone would be likely to put on their refrigerator, and then they will have it as a future reference source. And as far as generating interest in that, considering that we do have the $3,000, I would propose that we actually add a contest element to the photograph for the postcard, maybe a small cash prize attached to it, and that way in itself we generate a little bit of energy behind an anticipation of this postcard with these important links to information, maybe soon to be followed by a more informative letter. So I mean, if we've got $3 grand, then maybe we could do something to use it as a marketing tool, not just you know, a piece of information.
I would agree with that. You know, as Danny said, what he puts on his refrigerator is something that's cool and something that's informative. You know, Parks and Rec a couple years ago put out a postcard that was pretty cool that had all the fair or the street dance, the fair, and the music in the park events on it. And I kind of use that as a reference on what things I wanted to do and see. So, you know, it might not be as cool as that, but if you had, you know, things that reference the neighborhood of, you know, what they can and can't do, or, you know, what's available in the neighborhood for them to do, they might stick it on their refrigerator.
I like that idea, James, but I feel like that would be too much information for a postcard. Like, in theory, it sounds great, but
Yeah.
I know with a postcard that you can only put so much on it. Especially if you're trying to make it visually attractive.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, we're talking less than 150 homes.
Right.
So that I'm just thinking like postcard wise, I know we print postcards for a lot of my work, and they're not expensive. You know, it's $35 to print 500 postcards. You know, it's not a hugely expensive endeavor, but seems like a lot of work for 100. And John, you probably know the better number. We're less than 100. I know that in the historic district.
So Danny, who were we chasing?
We're talking historic district, and I think any homes that also have historic designation.
The uneducated, the ones that aren't aware. So right.
I think I would say everyone, because I mean, you know, people need reminders.
Yes.
Homeowners need to. Obviously, we sent out the CLG grant 2 years ago and got 0 applicants, so they need reminders too. All the existing people, and then, you know, the people who are new to the neighborhood need kind of more of the introduction.
Yeah, but I do think it ought to be for everybody. Again, one of the sites, I think it was the Waterloo, Iowa, the whole page was a frequently asked questions page. And I think that'd be helpful if someone's lived there for a while, but hey, I want to replace my windows. Windows are a big deal, you know, with this. So here's the, you know, this is a one-stop shopping that people can go to. So I think it's something that we want to keep up with the current residents, rather than just focusing on the new folks.
That's it.
And I think we could probably do it in a well-worded letter, right? I mean, you can get them both.
Sure.
Sure. The contest idea, I'm concerned. I don't know if we can use grant funding for that. I don't know the rules on CLG grant funding on a contest.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure either. That'd be something that I'd have to check in with the state about.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. I don't want to overcomplicate the legal logistics of it, that's for sure. But if we're looking at $3,000 and 150 homes, not to say those are firm numbers, as far as the number of homes, but then we're looking at $20 a household. You know, I mean, we could send them like a little box of chocolates.
Well, the thing is
Get a
that we
little
also
box of chocolates with their letter.
the thing is that we have to think like we are, you know, using some of this money for staff time, and someone's gonna have to create those materials.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna appear out of nowhere.
Great chocolate. I'm just saying, you could give them a little gift. Just let me smear this on this letter while I read it, you know? Man.
Scott.
We're gonna get in trouble from these SHPO folks, that's for sure. They're gonna, state's not gonna like us at the end. They're giving out chocolates.
Yeah, they want to see like
it's just a little taste of guilt to say, you know, maybe I should actually read this letter before I.
You know, the funny thing is the Historical Society has actually done that when we send out notes. When we drop them, we drop off a little bag of candy kisses with our letters when we do it too. So we've used that technique, Scott. So I don't know if it works or not, but I like the idea of being able to include partner stuff that you know, James was proposing, and I think that would be a great idea to try to get some of the other groups to include information in there just to help give resources for neighbors. And maybe a good way to contain that is some sort of way, an envelope or some sort of packet that contains information so they can hang on to it. Obviously, there's an expense to purchase all of those folders, envelopes, or whatever however we contain it. But I think that's within the $3,000 budget, I would assume, to buy 150 envelopes or packets or whatever it is.
Okay, so it seems like we want to do something physical then, if I'm not mistaken, and not go for having this just be online or just a simple post, like a plain postcard with this kind of information. Because it seems like there's older residents and we want to kind of play on our audience being more paper versus
Well, we already
digital.
have a page. I mean, there's already an HRB page on the city website. It's been there forever. I don't know what our traffic is. I'd be surprised if anyone ever goes to it.
I don't think it has very many things on it.
Yeah,
So.
it doesn't. But there's, there is a site there, and I don't know what I don't think that'd be the first place people are going to look.
Okay.
That is not outreach. That's not outreach. When you build a website, that's not outreach. That makes yourself available, but it's not the actual physical act of reaching out to people because you want them to come to you.
Mhm.
And so in marketing, I always think of it as when you build a website, you need a website, you have to have it there, a landing page. It would be great to incorporate some of the information we put together on the website, but that's not reaching out. That's people coming to you on a website.
Oh,
And if we want to do education outreach is what this is for, we should probably do something to go out, whether it is a postcard or a mail or a letter or.
Okay, sounds good then. Okay.
so
Okay, so
so we're looking for something to hold on to that comes up in the mail. Is postcard a nice postcard? Is that what we're talking about?
I think it seems
No.
like Danny has mentioned that he wants the whole packet, like a physical packet.
I could go either way. I mean, a postcard's fine. It's easy to do. Scott, yeah.
I recommend both. A postcard, a nice photograph that's really of putting on someone's refrigerator, and then to be followed by a more informative letter. Maybe not a packet. I'm not down with this folder thing. Okay, as a younger member, you give me a folder, I'm gonna be like, why did you do that to me? Now I just don't like it. Now I have to put this somewhere. I have to find space in my cabinet. I'm gonna put it in there, and I'm never gonna look at it again. But a postcard, I will stick it on my fridge. A magnet, give me a magnet, and that I will definitely put that on my refrigerator because I always have plenty of
packet.
the magnet is the postcard. The postcard is the magnet. Or send the letter and then send the postcard. So that way they get the magnet first. And then they have to get the postcard and they're like, oh, now I know what to use the magnet for.
That magnet's actually not a bad idea. One of those little like postcardy magnet. I would actually hang on to that, and I don't know what you put on it to make it
The little
an evergreen because you want to make sure it doesn't expire. You don't want to put events on it or something. But
no, just a few good web links.
yeah,
And a nice
phone number.
image. I mean, there's the West Linn Facebook group. There are hundreds of photographs of West Linn on it. Contact the person who posted it. Say, hey, can I use your photo? I'm sure they'll say yes. Bam, awesome photograph, immediately available to us to use.
So do we want to limit this to the 150 households in the historic district, or do we want to do it to the whole thing? I don't know. 150 people doesn't seem like a lot of outreach for the $3,000.
Again, we have to remember that someone's gonna have to make the materials.
No,
And-
it could be the same materials for, yeah, I guess it couldn't be for every different neighborhood, but,
Okay.
And remember, we only have jurisdiction technically over a historic district or any houses that are on the historic registry.
right.
Although I think it would be a great example. We could show it to the neighborhood associations. If they want to follow suit and do similar, but they'd have to get their own grant for it. And
Right.
Yeah.
Just saying, a piece of chocolate only lasts 10 seconds. A magnet could last 10 years.
Would you actually eat a chocolate though? If someone sent me a chocolate in the mail, I wouldn't eat it.
yeah, no, I
Came
Would
from
you
the
think I
Historic
wouldn't
Review Board with government funding behind it. I
Well,
would
you
say,
wouldn't know
okay, there's
that.
probably not a razor blade in this.
government funded chocolate. I don't know.
Wouldn't be too sure. Wouldn't be too sure.
GFC.
All right, I think
What, or
seems like
cheese.
we're burning.
Give it,
Seems like we're
make it
burning candles
cheese.
here. We're burning some time here.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
Some
Let's move forward. Jeez.
Thanks.
So Betty, that
Ah.
actually is another idea of maybe doing a magnet or some sort of printed version. You know, you can print on magnets. I'm assuming that's what you're talking
I
about.
gotta pause.
Tom's walking out. So that could be another possibility of just doing a mail magnet kind of thing,
Mhm.
with reference
That's not bad,
information.
Yeah, I didn't think about the mail magnets. You don't really see them often, but I have to
I know
research.
I got
the
one for my vet on
cost.
the fridge with my vet's phone number on there if I need to call the vet, you know.
Yeah, I'll see what the cost would. Yeah, I'd have to look into that.
I've never researched that one. I know they're available at most of the printing places, and they're not. I would assume they wouldn't be over expensive, but
No magnet.
no magnet. Tom doesn't like the magnet. Okay.
Okay. So let's just move on with what we actually want to see in this packet for the historic district. So did we like the introduction letter? I know some of the other ones also had introduction letters, but I think that for me, it seems like a really good thing to do. Are you all in agreement to having an introduction letter?
I say yes to some sort of introduction letter because people want to know why they're getting this
Yeah.
or whatever they're getting.
Okay.
I think it depends on if we send them a magnet or a packet.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Although even on a postcard, you want to put some sort of introduction paragraph of why are you getting this, right? Some sort of description of what you're getting,
Mhm.
of why you're getting this.
Welcome to the neighborhood. This is what you're dealing with. That's what we've been. That's what we've been lost on for several years. And then when the clients come in, not clients, but when the homeowners come in and they give us an application, they're clueless. They don't realize what some of the rules are and things like that. So
Yeah,
yes, a
even-
postcard with some general education is what we've been pushing for. What I've been pushing for I don't know 2 years, something like that. Just something smart, just so that you know what you bought into. And if you didn't know what you bought into when you bought it, because your real estate agent didn't tell you that you're in a historic district, and they didn't tell you that you can't put a 3-story addition on the back of your house, like in the first edition in Lake Oswego and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden people come in, they're like, oh my gosh, well, this just house, this isn't big enough for us. And we're here. And then they're just clueless. So even if they purchased, we have to tell them. We have to tell them at some point. So if we can't tell them, if their real estate agent isn't going to tell them, somebody has to tell them, and it would help us on our job if we told him as soon as possible.
Okay.
Postcard.
Okay. So, sounds good. Okay. So then they did like a little brief history behind it. I didn't really read it. But is that something that we want to do? Kind of do like a little brief history of why, of the obviously why it's
Neighborhood. This is of
Yeah.
their neighborhood. I don't know. I think most people probably know the history of the neighborhood, at least a real general sense. But I don't know if they know the history of if we want to make it about the HRB or if we want to make it about their neighborhood. And keep in mind that some of these houses will not be in the Westland, the Willamette neighborhood, because some of them are over by the falls and some of them are up in Bolton.
Oh, okay. I think,
Real-
sorry, Danny, I need to,
Can I say something really quick? So Danny, you bought your house. Were you told all the restrictions that were on your piece of property, on the building, on the siding, on the colors of your house and the doorknobs and all that kind of stuff before you signed and said, I want to live in this district? Were you given all that information?
No, we were not given the code.
Exactly.
But I
So
was told immediately though that we were in a restricted area and we had to sign off on it on our disclosures.
to
with
who?
the-
To who did you sign off to? To the state? To the city? To
No,
the?
when
To
you're doing all your
us?
back in the reduced paperwork when you're signing off that you disclose that you're in a historic district
Okay.
and that you have limitations, our realtor and all the stuff. But again, that was 17 years ago.
I'm just talking about education.
But
That's
yeah.
all I'm looking for, to help people, help them, help us when we get put in a position. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to do some kind of outreach.
okay. So just to reiterate, sorry, Danny, this is only for the historic district that we're going to be sending these educational materials to. It's not all of West Linn.
No, but we have jurisdiction over there's a few other homes outside of the district that also answer to us. They have to
Okay.
follow the rules, so they would also get it because they fall under the guidelines. There's about 20 or so other houses.
That's correct. They're along they're further north and east, sort of up along Willamette Falls Drive. I'm sorry, Willamette Drive, or by the bridgehead.
Yeah.
So an old city hall.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, this CLG grant was specifically for the Willamette Historic District. And it played on that static map, the one that I showed back in November, that's south of Willamette Falls Drive. So when I'm talking about these educational materials and the virtual map itself, we're sticking to within those blocks there.
If we're going to do a postcard, it'll be hard to be able to squeeze in the history of Willamette into a postcard.
Yeah, all of these would be like impossible to do just on a postcard. We're not going to be able to put very much information on the postcard. So if we did the postcard, it would be in conjunction with either putting these materials on the website or doing the whole welcome packet. We can't put very much information on a postcard.
So, I mean, we can do a postcard and a letter, right?
Yeah, that's what I just said. I thought. I meant in
Okay,
conjunction with the.
So we weren't dealing with this either or scenario.
Oh no, no. It's kind of like right now we're just trying to brainstorm like, would we like to do the postcard and the virtual option, or just doing the welcome packet or the postcard and the packet.
Well, I mean, the HRB website part of the city website, I mean, it could use a revamp. I'm not sure when the last time it was edited, but maybe with, more of a 2020 plus perspective in the formatting of the website. I mean, not to say that it looks like it was made in 1994, but I mean, still websites need updating, every 5 or so years for formatting, accessing information, the hyperlinks, just a fresh set of eyes to make it accessible and good for navigation. But I mean, I agree that we need to create physical information to put in people's hands, give them the hyperlinks through the postcard, give them a letter, has a little personal touch that just, says, hey, we're here to support you in all that you want out of your property. make sure that you're aware of how things operate. So when you do want to do a home improvement project, it goes as smoothly as possible. You know, I think we want to keep a positive spin on it. I mean, people know they're in a historic district. We want to remind them of it, and that there are certain standards to operate by, and we will assist them. City staff are available to assist. The HRV is there to be consulted with. People can come to our meetings and just say hey, and we can say hey back.
Scott,
think-
no,
I just think
I totally agree, Scott. And with links, the big postcard with some links if you're interested in more information.
But one of the problems we'll keep
I
in
mean, we
mind
got
on the,
$3,000. Spend it on updating the website. You know, a big chunk
Well,
of that can just be some
yeah, but a
updating
lot
on
of
the
that is limited
website.
by what the city has, and that's going to be a whole city upgrade on the website. As you heard Betty saying, we're stuck with how the way the city design is, and there's not a lot you can do with it. I was involved with those decisions back in 2012 when they redid the website, and that was a nightmare committee to be on. And I don't think I think it needs some major updates, but that's way beyond us on making the website more accessible. It's very mobile friendly now, but not really. It's not it's not a dynamic website. It doesn't change between desktop and mobile. When you go on the desktop, it looks like you're on a giant phone on the on the screen.
I'm
It's
just
not.
talking
We don't even have.
language, hyperlinks, headings. You know, nothing, no crazy formatting changes. Just words. You know,
I agree, Scott.
pictures.
Scott, I agree.
Okay, and just keep in mind that we're in the brainstorming phase, and later on I'll go ahead and bring that up before, I'll have this, down the line some months from now. So we can look at it on the website. What changes do we want to make? So we can talk about the website formatting and the design of it in the future.
So Betty, what I'm getting from the consensus from the folks who've spoken up is that we want all three: a postcard, a letter, and the website updated.
Okay.
No,
We want all of them.
We have to be realistic. We have to be realistic. I think we go back to remembering why, Danny, why we brought this up, right? It was because your neighbors that buy in that aren't educated. That's all we're talking about.
Right.
And trying to educate them, and whether they are aware of it before they bought in or after they bought in, they need to be educated, because it's very, very clear properties are changing hands, and people don't understand why they can't build something that they want to, or they can't add to their house that they want to on their own. It's my property. Why can't I do what I want? And
Right.
that's in my mind. Like, I live in Bolton, okay? I live in a 100-year-old house, and you know what? I can do whatever I want with my property. I love what I have, but the point is this is designated, and it's designated for a reason. And I don't live there because I have 3 kids, and the houses in your neighborhood aren't big enough for my family, right? So I don't live there.
Yep.
So I want to make it clear to people that buy a house in the area that we have jurisdiction over. And Danny, you're the first one to say a house can't grow any bigger than it already is. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to educate those people. If we can't educate them before they buy it, then we need to educate them right after they bought it, I guess. And I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but it feels like it's a little frustrating, because if people are buying into this neighborhood and they're not educated about what they just bought into, then we have to hear about their stories about their 3 boys, and that they're getting a divorce because they can't afford this. And I'm sitting in a committee that's jurisdictional, and I'm hearing about this stupid shit that makes no difference to what I govern over. And by the way, we have an attorney that's part of those meetings that is being paid, let's say $350 an hour to be part of our meetings, and we're having to be subjected to hearing these personal stories. Personal stories don't matter. This is code. This is jurisdiction. I want to educate people before they buy, but we can't. So then we need to educate them right after they buy. I'm sorry. I'm frustrated because I've been here for a while, and I've seen and heard the stories, and I've said yes to additions on houses that I shouldn't have because I got tied up in some tear-jerking story, and I don't want to do that. This is beyond that. We're historic. I'm going to stop talking.
I think that's probably, I hear exactly what you're saying, Tom. You know, I'm in agreement with that. We've talked about it before. I think one of the ways we need to do that for our outreach, I kind of joked about it, but I actually do think that we have intergenerational people living in the neighborhood. One of the things, I work in marketing, and one of the things we know in marketing is, unfortunately, we've diversified our viewing and reading, and you can't just do one thing anymore. You can't just buy the ad in the Oregonian and going to reach 100 million people. It doesn't happen anymore. You have to do the website. You have to do the postcards. You've got to do billboards, newsletters, Facebook ads and everything else in the world, Twitter ads, TikTok ads, and all the others. And then you're going to still reach a fraction of the people you need to reach because they're all over the place. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the new media world that we're in. There's not just one way that we're going to reach everybody. But that's my take on it. And I think we can do this within the budget without killing Betty by making you do 10,000 different things. Although we could put a skywriting campaign too later on and have it fly over Willamette with a drone or something, right? Pulling a banner that says you're in the HRB now. Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah. So I don't know what you need out of this. What else you need from us, Betty, to help move forward?
So I just wanted to go over the different components that jurisdictions had done and seeing if we want to kind of do the same thing for ours, or if we would rather pass it. So we can just move on from the how are we going to market this, because I think maybe we can have that. It sounds like people are mixed on that. So let's just change topics for the time being so we can kind of go through this, because I think we're not going through kind of what we would like to see, which is the main reason why I'm here. Is that okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned, I think that was you, Danny, that we pretty much, like, people know the history as to the Willamette Historic District. So you think it would be kind of unnecessary to put something of that nature within the packet?
Well, keep in mind that that's a part of our mission, our directive isn't necessarily telling the history. That's actually not our job. I mean, I'm a member of the Historical Society and a couple other boards, but that's not the HRB's job. We're more a land use matters for the historic district. I'm not saying that we certainly can't tell the stories. I think some of us may not even know the history of it, so it's not a bad exercise. But I don't know. If we're going to do a letter and a packet, yes, absolutely, we can have it come from, the Willamette Heritage Walls, or from Weston Historical Society, or Willamette Neighborhood can write a little blip with that history. Let them take care of it, and we can include it if we do a packet.
Yeah.
I don't think we have space on a postcard for it, and on the website. There already is some history of the area on the website.
Okay, well, maybe we can play on that a little bit, and then get one of the other organizations to go ahead and help us, since I mean, these aren't just, I mean, in terms of the HRB, I'm just bringing these materials to get kind of approved and kind of get people's feedback on it and not necessarily for anyone in the HRB themselves to write this information.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have kind of feedback for providing like a little short history blurb on the Willamette Historic District? Like, I also saw that the Jefferson Park, I mean, they had a very robust website with a lot of different resources, and
Mhm.
they also had kind of some brief history of it as well when I went on their web page. I think it's kind of I think it would be like a vital component to the welcome packet, since it is for the historic district. Well, why is it historic? Why did it receive that kind of title to it? And then they also had this like how to research the history of your home, and it's very specific to them. But I don't know if we want to do something like that as well. Like they kind of played on their own search engines though, with that are kind of specific, like I mentioned, to them. I don't know what it would take to research the history of your home within the city here. I know that the Westland Historical Society has, you know, obviously done a lot of research, and they're helping us um, get that research for the homes right now. So maybe we don't have to do that because it will be part of the virtual tour component of the CLG grant.
I'm all for putting the history stuff. I love all that. Again, I think it might be outside of our purview as a board. That's a little bit outside of what we do. I love the idea, and as a homeowner, I would love to know more about that, but I don't know if that's within our jurisdiction, you know, kind of stuff. You know, it's more the other there's other history groups that do that. I was just looking over at the City of Boise letter that they send out. There's a nice, tight, concise letter talking about what their design guidelines are, what the review processes are, what the they have a section they had called the Historic District Overview. This is if you go down a little bit on their website, click on the letter right there, the historic homeowner handout.
Mhm.
It just says, you know, this letter is being sent to you because our records indicate that you live in the historic district. Preserving historic, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's a nice, concise list of here's what we do, here's where your guidelines are, here's where you can, you know, here's what we kind of general overviews of these things.
Mhm.
I concur with that. I think that's definitely where Tom's concerns lied, is making sure that people know that there is a jurisdictional compliance aspect that is involved with their residency, and the HRB is the organization that is going to be overseeing that part. So I think that is more where we should be hanging our hat, since that is the work we really are doing here. And we can, once again, with like the postcard, we can point them to the other organizations that will do more of the historical research assistance and background story stuff. So while I think it's good to give a little bit of background, we should definitely aim more in this direction, is where I think we should go.
Do you mean, Scott, do you mean in terms of like keeping it like succinct, or in terms of focusing it on design guidelines?
Yeah, I'm talking about because our main thing is design guidelines review process. That's what we sit here and talk about all the time. And when we have a hearing, that's what it's all about. There are other organizations that handle the more historical research aspect of things, and I don't think we should spend too much of our time or resources on those things. That's why I support the postcard, to make people aware of these other organizations and how to find them easily to do those things. And then for our letter, I support something that talks about more of the work that we do and keep it focused on that.
Okay, that sounds good. So do we want to just, it seems like we're kind of jumping to other cities and what they have done. Are there kind of other, um, upon looking at those resources, were there other components or features that you all liked that someone else had done?
I mean, I love the design of some of the websites that are out there, but again, I think we're limited on what we can do there.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do more of that, but I don't think we're going to be able to. I actually did like that. The Boise letter, I think, is fairly appropriate for what we do as a board. The information provided in the one from, I don't know what the other city was. Oh, Maplewood, New Jersey was great. It was a wonderful, beautiful packet, but I just think it's beyond the scope of what our board can handle.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of information. I mean, that's a lot of work to put all that together. We're not going to be able to do all that.
Yeah, they went,
I
some
mean,
other
and then they'll just throw it into recycling. You know, they get the letter, they open it, they're like, oh, what's all this? Oh, whatever. And it goes into recycling. It's gone, you know? Why should we take the time and resources to create something like that that can be disposed of in a split second like that?
Okay. So, did you all like the FAQ page that Jefferson Park had? I think there was Jefferson Park and Waterloo who did like a.
Really like Waterloo's because it was extensive, and you know it looked like that was kind of the only, that was their homepage. That probably isn't the best presentation, but it was pretty comprehensive. And I think that's a good idea, either with a pull down answers like it had, or links to get you right to the answers to the questions you got.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Let's see. So there was kind of an approval process as well on Boise's page. I don't know if you all had seen it. It broke it down. Let's see. To kind of the projects that would require, they term it a certificate of appropriateness. But would that be kind of something that we would like to see broken down? Is these kinds of projects would require you to go to HRB?
We don't necessarily have a certificate of appropriateness, but you mean like a breakdown of how to, of what they need to do. That's, I mean, again, it's not a, you're talking about for the website, or are you talking about for printed
No,
information?
just for like their resources, like these kinds of permits would require, I mean, don't you all have certain permits that you have that have to go through HRB before going through, don't they have to go through a public hearing process before HRB for adding some things to their homes in the historic district?
Other way around, they go to the staff first.
They go to
Yeah.
staff first.
Yes, yeah. So basically, I mean, yep, the terminology is different, but it's historic design review here in West Linn, and so it would, some items go to staff and some items go to the HRB, but really it comes from the city. So either way.
So we want to make sure that no matter what they do, they go to the city first. We don't want them to start ripping off siding and then realize, oh, I'm supposed to go to get approval for this?
Yeah.
I don't know if you do want them to make, having a list of things that are okay to do on your own, because then they might start doing their own things and get themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
They do that anyway.
The truth.
I don't know if we would want, like they did like a breakdown of like this kind of project would require this review. I think it was right here.
Yeah, the landscaping, demolition, siding.
So they went and broke it down. I don't know if we want to make it that accessible. Because sometimes, I mean, at least for me, if I didn't have this planning job, I would never know I have to look at chapter so and so if I live in the historic district and see what I can and can't do. Um, is that fair to say?
That's fair to say because people are ignorant of what they signed when they bought their house. But as Danny said, it is in all the paperwork that you sign saying that you're in a restricted covenanted area. So if they were smart, they would pull up those city codes and read them. But most people don't until it's too late. So.
And of course, it's also hard to interpret. Even if you read them, sometimes it's hard to interpret what the heck it means.
Yeah.
Until you ask. But again, I think we want to make sure we direct them to city staff to ask those questions because John's really good at being able to tell them, well, this means you got to do this, and if you're not, then that way they don't have to guess on their own. They can just pick up the phone, or well, I guess it's phone now, but call city staff and say, so I'm going to paint my house. What do I need to do? And John can tell them what to do or not to do. So maybe that's. I don't know, John, the direction we want them to do is we want them to go to you, right? I mean, we want to go to staff so they don't start making mistakes.
Yeah, I believe something akin to check in with the city first, to see what may or may not be required, so that staff is here to help them navigate that or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
as a possible avenue to go down. So, and maybe like some key examples.
So you have bandwidth for this, John,
For
right?
for public questions to come in.
Yeah, we want to make sure we don't overwhelm you.
No.
Because,
Yeah. So I mean,
you
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it has to have my name specifically on it, but I think answering the public's questions is a key part of our job. So we have dedicated counter hours that people can come in and talk to a city planner. The phones and emails are open. So a key part of our job is being available to the public. So it's very similar to like environmental regulations. We encourage people to come in and talk to us first. So. Yeah. So it's like a wetland.
So we don't need to lay it out so clearly. We can just say, hey, if you're going to break ground, then, call the city first.
That's one option, if you want to be very efficient about it. But yeah, so or we could lay it out in a more detailed manner, but it comes down to that level of information that you're debating over.
I mean, the challenge is trying to reduce chapter 25 into bullet dots. That's where it'd be really tricky to try to say, oh, here's the bullet dot of what all of this means. And I'd hate to have that become then a legal document that someone says, well, your email, your letter, your postcard says I can replace my windows or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not get too
So
legally binding here.
So it seems like, bringing up these kind of materials that other cities have done, seems like we don't want this to get too into the weeds of things. We kind of just want to keep this brief and simple. We don't want to get into like, this is how you preserve your windows, or, if you do this, then it requires this. We don't want to go through that avenue of boring people. We just want to keep it as simple as we can.
I think so. I don't know what other folks think. David says it here.
You're better off keeping it simple. That way you don't mislead them. Just kind of give them notice that they need to be aware of these things.
I concur.
Okay. did you all have a chance to look at the other cities? Like, is there anything else that um, you would want to let me know? Like, hey, I really like that. Can we do something like that? Or even something that wasn't brought up. Um, I'm open to hearing all suggestions. No? Okay. Okay then. So I won't bore you guys to death anymore. Thanks for having me, and I think I'll be back next month or the month after to discuss kind of the progress that has been made. And again, I want to thank you all for your time and effort in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. So moving on, historic review code update. And I thought this was going to be the longer one, but maybe it was not.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I think this item is something the board's probably fairly familiar with by now. We've had a number of meetings talking about updates to chapters 2, 25, and 58 and 99 to sort of clarify procedural issues. And I know we've spent the last couple meetings dialing this in. And I think with this meeting, I just wanted to see if there are any sort of final issues or concerns that people have with the language. I guess to summarize the project for those in the viewing audience, the idea here is to clarify procedural requirements and certain standards, approval standards within the chapters relating to historic resources and the Willamette Falls Drive Commercial Design District, that the Main Street area on Willamette Falls Drive. So I think with this, if the board is comfortable with the package as it stands today, I think what staff would like to do would be to have either a joint meeting or perhaps just like a representative group of the HRB meet with the Planning Commission to present the work done so far, explain to them some thought processes about the changes, and they get some feedback from the Planning Commission and Council as to where the code stands. The idea being there's no point to go into a public hearing process for adoption if there are concerns that the Planning Commission or Council have about the desired language and maybe want the HRB to spend a little more time in the language to clarify or whatnot. So I think with that, I'll sort of turn it over to the board, but I think staff is just trying to figure out, are there any other remaining areas in this that need some attention? And I'm happy to go over different sections if you want or whatnot, but just wanted to put it out there to the group. So.
I know James is kind of late to this process, but James, we for the last 3 years have been refining and cleaning up the code. And
Right.
4 years, three,
Yeah.
4 years over that.
You know, honestly, I was part of the
Fine.
beginning of this. So
Maybe five, maybe five.
Maybe 5. Okay.
And so James, some of this has been just updating words and things where there's references to code that doesn't exist anymore. And then some of it is just is things like taking out like the love, like you bring it up, but the paint palette that does not exist, removing
Right.
those types of
Yeah.
things. So, and for the most part, we are not making massive changes. Is that I think that's what our
Correct.
if everyone agrees, most of this is just cleanup, and with the idea of I have pointed out many times that there are some changes that do need to be made, but from John's recommendation, he thinks we should first take care of these cleanups and then work on making the code better for step 2.
Correct.
If I'm not saying that correctly there, but so that's kind of the idea, James. So you may not see some massive corrections, and there still are some issues that we have I personally have the code that it doesn't address all the needs, but we've kind of come to the conclusion that this is something we could probably get approved, and then we can work on bigger issues on the next round.
So, I appreciate that introduction to that. I a number of years ago started on this, so I'm
I wonder if that was
very
you
familiar
on
with
there
it.
before.
Yeah.
But I have like 5 pages laid out in front of me here that I have a few notes on, and a couple of them are just clarifications that I would like to ask if I could go
Of
over.
course. Yes.
So on page 10 of 21, you have the wrong date on the last comment. It says 12/21 of 22. We haven't got there yet.
Okay.
Okay. And then on page 16 of 21, I just want clarification of the note that you have there in pink, chapter 34 limits accessory structures, a maximum of 15 for non-dwelling, 18 for ADUs.
Okay. If you could back up 1 second, if you could give me like a section citation,
Oh, okay.
that'd be helpful.
Okay, so let's see here. That is, let me go to previous page to get the right number.
I think it's 25.070,
Yeah.
and then it's section, oh gosh.
Yeah, it's hard to get the section because you got to go back a bunch.
Yeah. C
Oh, there it is.
number 7.
Yeah, so it's 25070, number 7, building
This
height.
is building height, correct. Yep.
Yes. So residential structures are limited to 28 feet in height, which, yeah, that's fine. But down there in the pink on the right, it says chapter 34 limits accessory structures to a maximum of 15 for non-dwellings and 18 for ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
When the other says 28, and don't we want things to, flow, or shouldn't
Yes.
a 28-foot restriction on an ADU also?
So yeah, so I think in terms of this, so this is calling out a conflict in the code,
Okay.
basically. In that,
So my notes say conflict / clarification ? So if that's a conflict in the code,
mhm.
I don't see a resolution to that, I guess, in the comments.
Yeah, or actually, I should say basically, actually, it's not conflict. I'm sorry. So give me 1 second here to read this. There's a lot of different sections in here.
Yeah.
And we tackled this earlier in the year. So
And in all honesty, we don't have to, I could email these to you if you wanted. We don't have to take everybody's time for my clarification, but
okay.
If I remember correctly, the one we had a house 2 years ago that was being
Mhm.
put in an application, and they were confused between 34 and our chapter of what height they could make their ADU, because we didn't match chapter
Correct.
34. And I
Yeah.
believe this corrects that and just gets rid of our code, and we instead rely on 34.
yeah,
Mhm.
because like that house across, Danny, forgive me, are you still on 6th
Yeah.
in between 12th and 13th?
Yep.
You know that white house across the street from you? With
The
ADU?
corner on the corner one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a much taller than an 18-foot ADU.
And
So
that one was that was years ago, but yeah, before we moved in, but that one got a lot of attention in the neighborhood for violating the code. Yeah.
yeah, but at 28, I think it's okay, right?
That's for the residential portion of it, the actual house structure itself,
Right.
not for the ADU.
And I
But
think
the ADU in the background is actually the same. I think it's the same roof line as the front house, which is
I
definitely
think
a
it
code
is.
violation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
so. So I think looking at this, also recreating my thought process on this, section C there limits 2-story accessory structures to 23 feet. And so I think this was also this would basically, this would default to section D then, where it basically says accessory structures cannot exceed the height of the primary dwelling. And so that way you could have a 2-story accessory structure that matched the house, for example.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what confused me was the 18-foot comment in the in the change section, the pink to the right there.
Yeah.
I don't, because I didn't see that 18-foot, we call out 28-foot and then we call out 15-foot and then we call out third, what was the other? Not to exceed. So I just didn't know where that 18 came from. And I was hoping it wasn't limiting an ADU to 18 feet because in a flat neighborhood, it might be okay, but when, down a sloping lot or something, you might do something differently.
So I can clarify that. So
Right, because what we want to make sure that if chapter 34 supersedes,
yeah,
we address that in the code here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
correct. Yeah.
because it would just create confusion again.
So I believe, yeah, this is, yeah. And actually this section is also potentially in play a little bit with House Bill 2001 also coming through, which I believe we've talked about in recent meetings. So this would actually default to chapter 34, which is 18 feet, but then that may be revisited in a different code project. So,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, and then
As well
the
as
next
chapter
one,
41 too in that second portion. That's I think why we took that out, right?
I'm sorry.
And
You
the
took
second
41
one,
out.
the letter C is referring back to chapter 41.
Correct. And that chapter 41 is how we measure height. And so that's a metrics basically it's a methodology chapter. And so that it doesn't establish, it basically says this is how we measure height, the height of structures. So but that applies regardless of whether or not there are references in there or not. So
So if we remove that subsection C there,
mhm.
that allows them then to make the ADU the same height as the front house.
It does not, it defaults to chapter 34. And so
And then what is I don't know chapter 34.
I'm sorry, chapter 34 is the accessory structures chapter.
And what does that say then for the accessory structure for the maximum height?
18 feet for ADUs.
And even for a 2-story accessory dwelling?
And so, correct.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So basically they have to be attached to go to the full 28 feet. If they're detached, they can go maximum 18 feet.
But they can be attached with the breezeway, correct?
Breezeways have counted in the past
Yep.
in terms of if they're attached.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. The next one I have is 58.0.8.0 standards.
58.0.8840.
No, 0.80
80, that's what I thought.
standards.
And what was the subsection in 080?
Let's start at like 10. Hang on a second. Wait a second. No, I might be. Hang on. I'm looking. Might not be. Hang on. Yeah, 10. So
This is building materials.
and orientation.
Yep.
Okay. So Hardy Like is a design exception.
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah. So here the default is wood.
yeah.
Anything other than wood has to be reviewed by the HRB.
Okay.
As a design exception.
Okay. And that design exception, then if you go to 58, it says the historic review board may grant a design exception. But what if they don't? Does it go then to the planning department for override?
Yeah. So basically, this would be appealed, I believe, to council. Actually, no. In this case, 58, HRB makes a recommendation to the planning commission. So yes, it would basically, the applicant would then just have to make their case to the planning commission as to why the HRB recommendation should not be followed. So
My only my only concern about that is in the world we live in today.
Mhm.
I know of a couple sawmills that have shut down that used to make historic profiles for siding
Mhm.
that they no longer are in business. So hardy-like substances are going to be the norm versus the exception. You know, we used to be able to get real cedar, clear cedar, or clear fir siding to match just about every profile in the historic district made from wood. And now those places are shutting down.
James, we did discuss making the blanket allowing all non-wood material, but I think in the end we still wanted to have a little bit of say, because what if someone decides to put in something that's just not historic, but they claim, oh, it's a hardy plank, it's a hardy material.
Yeah, I think I would my preference, instead of being like a hardy like substance, taking that completely out and make it, you know, form, fit, and function of the original design, you know, because they make a hardy plank that is, you know, not just a 7-inch reveal or a 5-inch reveal. They make a hardy that's a double 3, and they make, you know, they make other products that do that. So I just,
Well, here's the thing, James. I mean, you know, stuff on paper can meet specs,
yeah,
but when you see it in person, show me the product, because some of this stuff looks like vinyl siding. The pattern repeats, and you might as well just turn it into concrete.
yeah.
Show us the product before we approve it.
Hardy repeats
And I think
every
that's where we're all hanging our
17
hat.
feet. So
I think
yeah.
we're also trying to leave future boards the opportunity to have their discretion of who knows what the next invented material is going to be.
Okay. All right, and then I want to back up to number 11, awnings.
Yes.
Um, you know, that if you look at the awnings that are up and down the street today, there's a wide variety. But I don't see, you know, an option to have just an awning over a doorway. It looks like to me that you know, minimum of 5 feet from the facade along 80% of the street facing facade to provide pedestrian coverage. That to me says that when I put an awning up, I've got to do 80% of my front facade 5 feet out at a minimum.
Well, that's existing code. That was already in.
No,
Wasn't that?
no,
No, it was
that's,
added.
yeah, that's what was added at at, I think 2 meetings ago, or it was following our tour of downtown.
I
So,
thought 80% was already in there. That was not existing.
no.
Where did we
That's
get that
based
number from?
on our meeting and what we thought.
Okay, I thought that we had that number come from somewhere existing. I remember when we were talking.
Yeah, because that would, you know, just, you know, to me, looking at a new building or an existing building that wants an awning, they would have to put 80% of the front facade into an awning, and then that can look cluttered, and, you know, how tight the buildings are, there could be a, you know, a 10-foot gap between completely different looking awnings that it might not flow correctly because of different property owners and such.
Yeah. So as I recall parts of the conversation on that, there was concern that insufficient awning lengths along the linear frontage would not provide the level of protection, perhaps that you know, in terms of that it wouldn't provide protection for someone trying to scoot down the street during a rainstorm, and could also create a little more uniformity out there, and that there was concern by some members that it was just over the doorway and that was not really meeting the function. But that's just some of the deliberations that happened in the past, you know, on the
Okay.
topic. Yeah.
All right. So that's my concern on that one.
James, what was your concern about that one?
80% of the front facade being covered with an awning.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's some smaller buildings that, you only need an awning over the doorway, someplace to stand to get in and out and.
History there. The
They,
whole
they,
purpose was to provide protection for the pedestrians walking up down the street. If you're putting it only over the doorway, that's not protection for the pedestrian.
The sidewalks are now 12 feet wide with a bike path that everybody uses as a sidewalk, so.
no, but
you know,
that's not. But listen, that jurisdiction and all that stuff, and that has no relationship to historic presence on the street. The idea is I want to walk down and get a cup of coffee at Lark's, and the intent is for this kind of zero front property, zero lot line for a structure is that there's some nice presence that I don't have to carry an umbrella to get to Lark's for a cup of coffee. But I know we have A to Z of stuff on the street, but that's the intent. That's the intent.
Yeah, so Tom, my only concern with that is if you look at like the brand new building, the Willamette building, there's 4 different distinct facades on that building that change design. They don't really change profile or your zero lot line. They change design, and across 80% of that building, then you would have to have 4 different types of awnings to tie into those building designs. It would look weird.
What Willamette building are you talking about?
The brand new one on
The
corner.
icon one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at any of those newer buildings that are up, they're all kind of broken up. They're not just a flat fronted building that one big awning would provide, a pleasant eye.
And that's what they were
But-
doing. They're breaking up it, like you just said, there's 80%. So they're breaking it up. So it's not supposed to be perfect, and it's not supposed to be assembly line awnings. They're not perfect, but believe me. So John took us on a walk about a month ago, and we walked both sides. And there's some good stuff, and there's some bad stuff, and there's some we don't understand why stuff. But the intent is to be able to walk to the cider house from Bellagio's and try to stay dry. That's and that goes to mid-century intention. That's all. And I don't give 2 turds about it. But that's the intent of the code.
Yeah.
I just found what I was referencing before. The 80% is part of the code, and what it actually it is supporting what our decision was, because it says the 80% actually, if you go down just a little bit, James, to where it talks about the windows.
Yeah.
Windows shall extend to 80% of the front of the
yes.
building.
Yes.
That's where our 80% came from. Is that we
Yeah.
said if there's windows on 80%, then we can put awnings over those windows. That would be 80%, and that's where that number comes from. So it's just a little bit number 15 on that same subsection. It says windows, and that's existing code. That's been there for years. Is that windows shall extend to 80% of the building in the front.
Okay.
I remember. I can confirm that. I remember that conversation. Thank you, Danny. Yeah.
All right.
I had to
So
rethink
so
that
what
whole
can
process of what it was. I know there was an 80%
I'm
that
all
we.
right with that, but what confuses me is that a minimum of 5 feet and along 80% of the street facade. It doesn't say anything about windows in that statement. Under awning shall.
We
Okay,
could connect
so-
it to windows. But since they're
Yeah.
going to have 80% windows, I would hope they put their awning over the window. I guess they don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing is that this code that we wrote up was the result of us physically walking Willamette Falls Drive in that area and seeing
I get
what
that.
was
Yeah,
already in
okay, we did.
existence
Yeah.
and going and then taking what was already in existence and then trying to create a level of consistency to be applied across the historic strip there. So in the future, we can have better alignment between the buildings and essentially just have everything look a little more aesthetically pleasing. the future.
If I could also perhaps maybe speak to what I think maybe your concern, James,
Yeah,
is that there is a design exception procedure built in as
right.
well. And so that this may be something where someone says, I can do something better than what the minimum code requires, and make the case that really narrower awnings may be a superior design solution.
Yeah.
Um,
Statement also, I think if we said, instead of where it says facade and along, just say facade, comma, along 80% would change that whole thing. Because it, at a minimum is what it's saying that 80% is, by the way the way it's worded right now. You're at a minimum of 5 feet and it's a minimum of 80%. Where if you had a facade, comma, along 80% of the street, it would break that up and take the minimum away from the 80%. Because that a minimum of 80% is a lot, right? On
mhm.
the front of a building. It's saying that I could do 100%, but there's a minimum of 80.
Correct. And I'm not sure to see that change in to where the 80% becomes discretionary with the comma. Maybe I'm reading it differently.
Yeah.
But
Again, if they're having to put 80% of their front facade as windows anyway,
Yeah.
according to the code, they might as well put a covering over those windows to match.
Okay, to get into the grammar, you got at the end, it says to provide appropriate pedestrian coverage. To provide appropriate pedestrian coverage, it needs to be 5 feet away from the facade and along 80% of it. The two together provide the adequate pedestrian coverage. And that's why there's the and no comma.
I concur.
I'll agree to disagree.
okay.
So it's all good. So what are we uh what do we where's the line at? I'm not sure that I understand that.
I'll agree to keep it the way it is.
Oh, but no, if there's something that needs to be said, I just
I said it. I said it. You guys don't agree, so I'll move on. That's fine.
Well, I mean, James, you're agreeing that you think the awning should be over the windows. And the code is saying that they have to have windows over 80%. That's why we're putting the 80% in there. I mean, we could take out that 80% and just say overall windows and entryways, which is exactly the same thing as 80%.
Yeah, but I don't think that's how the code is being recognized, because if you look at the remodel that's happening, on the saloon, old cat adoption center, they're not putting awnings over those windows, and there's not 80% of the windows in that new addition or the remodeled area. So
We haven't seen that one yet, and we have not approved it yet.
Yeah, that just arrived today. So I haven't even seen it yet. So it's sitting on our servers, but I haven't seen it yet. So
all right, well, let's hold off judgment until we see it, but it's not 80%.
James, do you have documents that you can share with us?
I've just seen a rough sketch of it, so
Yeah. Okay.
just probably what John just was.
yeah. Were there buildings actually? So for my own benefit here, are there buildings you find are exceptional that have a lesser awning coverage? I think you mentioned the Icon, the new Icon building there. On the
Icon building is new, right? So
Yeah.
so it doesn't. The one across the street, if you walk from Lark to Allium, you're going to get wet. If you
No, you're not. No, no. Hold on, James. You're not. You're the only thing that's going to get you wet is about 2 foot little chunks in between what they have there, between allium and larks.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, there's these big potted plants that actually push you out of the way. That's a whole nother conversation that's on a sidewalk. But
Yeah,
no,
that's
I walk
number
to
25.
Larks. Listen, I walk to Larks every day for coffee,
Yeah.
and I walk from and there's 2 foot stretches where yes, there are not there's not cover, but I don't need to have an umbrella to go get a cup of coffee at Larks.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go and measure it all to do the exact 80%, as well as the transom also counts. And so when we were out there looking at it, we eyeballed it, and maybe it was 75%. I don't know, but it seemed to be that it was over all the windows. And if their windows are covering 80% like they're supposed to, then they should be
Okay.
good. And it is only for new construction. So that's way if the saloon doesn't touch anything, they don't want to do anything, they don't have to, they can leave it the way it is. It's only new or remodeled construction.
Okay. Like I said, I'll agree.
Okay, were there other sections, James, that you had questions or concerns about?
Yeah, well, section 25 that Tom just touched on, planters, no planters
Yes.
are allowed.
Mm-hmm.
There's planters up and down the street everywhere.
Yeah.
And James, I concur.
And I want to know who is going to enforce that, to be honest.
And that's
Yeah.
why we're taking it out.
Yeah, it's actually being taken out, so there's no enforcement necessary.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, good. All right. And then,
Yeah, they seem to be popular. So,
yeah. And then the last thing I had was the very last comment. I said, explain the comments of the intent here is to provide a path forward for owners of existing buildings whose architecture does not easily convert to the Western false front style, but may still be viable and capable of supporting other goals of the design district. Examples include the old gas station and youth music project. So those two buildings, I'm old enough that I remember when the gas station was put in, and I remember when, youth music was a brand new church. So those two really aren't conforming to the historic district no matter what, right?
correct.
I'm just concerned that we would, require them to then conform or make them look different than they looked when they were built,
So if they came in for like an addition or a substantial remodel, the current code pushes them to become a Western false front style building.
Right.
And so that it really creates awkward. The design music project was approved with a long series of sort of non-conforming exemptions. And it was a awkward thing in so the idea would be, I mean, there are like a limited number of buildings here that would be affected by this. And I think one thing not listed here, which has been the subject of many conversations, which is the next comment, is about the bungalows, the existing bungalows.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think this would allow early 20th century architecture to continue to exist, which is different from that. So
Okay.
it's go ahead.
But like the gas station, we're probably going to hear something on that in the next month or so, that it's going through a considerable remodel of a space that's looked the same since 1972,
Yep.
I
I have updates for that later on in this. And so, yeah, the HRB is likely to see that next month.
Okay.
So that's coming before you guys to review. So I have a revised application on my desk I need to review, and if it's good to go, we're going to start noticing, and that way you guys can get out there. But this is not coming It will not be reviewed under this code, under this code revision though. So obviously,
Okay, okay.
so
But, well, I say okay, but there's gonna be something in the future that comes up like it, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
An
James,
example might, go ahead.
I was just
Sorry.
saying, James, one of my concerns is also some of the empty lots that are adjacent to bungalows and in between bungalows where we're going to have 0 lot lines and then setback bungalows, and
right.
which is going to have to be this deal. I think we kind of, John said, let's push that to later discussion.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
going to be too much to deal with.
I was gonna go there because that was in my, my comments of that is, if we leave a bungalow and build a 0 lot line next to it, it's gonna look ridiculous,
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's all I had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So what
So,
happens?
John,
so
do
what,
you need a motion or something to bring this to, or whatever you want to do next, bring it to the planning commission or whatever?
I think a motion would be good. I think, again, this is not the final recommendation, but I think just to start that conversation with the next higher bodies in the city. So the planning commission and HRB are sort of co-equal with just different functions, but the text amendments would actually go through the planning commission to the council. So I think it's sort of it's a check-in with them in a workshop format, but a motion to initiate a workshop with the planning commission would be fine. So that makes sense. So,
I would make that motion.
yeah.
I will second that motion. Any discussion about that from any of the other board members about presenting this to the planning commission?
I think we're there. I think we're there.
Awesome.
Very good. So then, open this to a quick vote. All in favor of showing, or I guess, move this over to the planning commission, say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Awesome.
Any oppositions? I don't think there was any.
Great. So that we have February 16th tentatively scheduled out. I think in the past we talked about a representative group from the HRB attending that meeting and to sort of talk about the amendments and some of the issues and be present for that conversation. I think Scott, you're going to be there regardless. So since you're on the planning commission, so, but I don't know if you want to decide tonight who's going to attend or if you want to check your calendars and see who can be available, but does the HRB have a feeling about how many of you should attend? Or if just a couple are fine, or if all of you want to attend? So
I'd like to attend.
Are they meeting
Well,
in
I'm
person
sorry.
or is it still virtual?
so far
Sure.
everything's virtual.
Okay.
Point of order for myself, when I
Yes.
attend that meeting, I will be functioning as a member of the planning committee.
Okay. Yeah, I can confirm that. So that makes sense. Yeah, to have that clarified. So
And what time do they meet? 6 o'clock like us, or are they at 7 o'clock, or what are they?
let me confirm that.
6:30. We
6:30
do it at
sounds
6
about right.
o'clock pre-meeting and then 6:30 actual meeting.
6:30. I can be there too.
And then Tom, you mentioned you wanted to be present.
Please.
Okay. Okay, was there anyone else?
You could put me down as a tentative. I'm having surgery on that Monday, so might be cranky.
Okay. Okay.
That would be
Well,
perfect for a public meeting.
great. Well, I will then coordinate with you for then about details and whatnot. So in terms of that, I have to put together like a memorandum and whatnot to explain this process and kind of summarize several years worth of work, I may ask for your input on that, since I've come in the last 6 months of this. So some of you have been around the 3 or 5 years, however it was. I saw different numbers of fingers raised in the group. So great. Well, I'm excited about that, and then we can continue this conversation and revisit some issues and go from there. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. So anything?
Our next
on
item on the agenda is items of interest from the board. If there are any items from the board members, I'll throw.
Oh dear. I think Danny froze.
Danny,
Now he's gone.
Oh, Danny.
We're all waiting in suspense.
hey, I'm gonna
You
go
froze,
down to
Danny.
Danny.
Oh,
No, start over, Danny. You froze.
Am I back? Oh, I love
yes,
the
yes.
speed
Yes,
of
we-
centering.
No, you're back. You're back.
We heard none of that, by the way. So,
Okay, no worries. This Sunday, the Westland Historical Society is having its annual meeting virtually and in person over at the Willamette Cider House at 2:00 on Sunday. So I invite all board members, if they want to get an update on the Historical Society, they can join there either on Zoom or on in person. And they're also doing an Ignite talk presentation on Sunday as well. So invitation if anyone wants to join.
Awesome.
Any
I'm
other
going to
items from board members?
Yeah, I'm going to Jay Willie's right now. If we want to have a non-judicial conversation, I'll be at Jay Willie's in about 8 minutes. So consider that. John, that includes you. It's
I appreciate that.
All right. I'll see you in a little bit.
Cool. I have a couple of announcements, unless other board members have.
We
have
can move
any-
on to items
anything?
from staff. Go ahead.
Okay, so really fast, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped out with the annual report to council. So that went off, and James, so you know, the HRB made some recommendations to council in terms of priorities. One of which is to examine the bungalow issue and maybe address how to preserve the remaining bungalows on Main Street. So I'm not sure if you've seen that, but that went out. So anyways, I want to say thank you to everyone for reviewing the draft promptly. Actually, I think you were part of the HRB by that point. But anyway, as a reminder, board training. Training is next week. I believe you're all invited for CAG trainings. So that's next Tuesday night. Just a reminder for that. Since with the beginning of the new year and new patterns, just a reminder that if you can't, if for some reason you can't make a meeting, please send a notice out to staff at least 48 hours if you can. Most of you guys are pretty good, about this. Just a reminder to let us know if you're not going to be here so we can plan accordingly on that. As I mentioned earlier, we're probably going to have a quasi-judicial hearing next month for the gas station project. So that's to convert the old gas station to a food cart pod. So details will be forthcoming. Hopefully we can get notices out next week and on to that. So also related to that, some of you may know that Historic Willamette is going to apply for a Main Street grant to help out with that project to the tune of potentially 200,000. So to facilitate that project as well, bring some vitality to that end of Main Street and help rejuvenate that. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the Westland Saloon application just arrived today. I have not seen it, but those materials should be posted to the website in the next day or two. So if you get curious, go to our projects page. You'll see all the application materials for that, as well as the gas station and other projects. So all that should be there. And I can send you a link if you just shoot me an email, and I can send you a link rather than looking for it. I think other than that, that's about it. That's all I have. So
One quick question on the update on HB 2001.
yes,
I know you're going to check in to see, or staff is going to check in to see what any overlap between our current code and any problems there. Because if we're gonna send our updated chapters, we might as well include that in there if we have to change stuff before HRB, what is it? HR, what is it? HB 2001.
yeah. So in terms of that, the project is not required to touch our chapter. Basically, there's a so the so as part of HB 2001, the regulations have to be clear and objective on their face, and that meaning there can't be any discretion. One of the exceptions though are historic resources. So House Bill 2001, is not going to conflict in that regards in terms of that. Also, really this is focused on the residential chapters. So far I haven't seen any overlaps or conflicts. So, James?
So touch on that it won't conflict with any of the historic resources. So if there was infill or anything like that in the historic district, would they be able to utilize that or not utilize it?
So if there was an infill project in the Willamette Historic District, it would have to go through the Chapter 25 review, historic design review, basically, because it'll be a new structure within the district itself, and so new construction within the district is an exception to other parts of the city where basically housing has to be pretty much a straight building permit. So that area remains protected. So
will the timing, because there's some special timing on this bill also where the
Right.
projects are 90 days from start to finish?
Timing, I don't recall that. So basically,
The permitting or approval?
yeah. So I don't recall offhand exactly. So I can't speak to that directly. So I'm not directly working on House Bill 2001. So
Okay, 'cause my concern with that is with us, with what we will do in that circumstance, we would have to be pretty quick to do it because
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I read that it had to be approved within 60 days, 6 weeks,
Okay.
something really quick.
And this was House Bill 2001 generally, is what you're saying? Yeah. So the reason, as a point of background here, we have until June 30th, 2022 to adopt our regulations. If the city does not adopt those, a state bottle code will kick in, and we're preempted until such time as we adopt our own code. The current timeline is very compressed because CCI and council decided to create a citizen working group to work on the code revisions, and so that's bumping the public hearings later on in the spring. So that's why there's that compressed schedule, is to allow this working group to take a look at the changes. So I think, Tom, did you want to provide some comments to that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
You're on. Sorry.
Yeah. So, that's fine. So James, does that kind of help with that? Is that we have a state deadline to adopt this, and so I can connect you with some more information about that if that would.
No,
help.
my concern was just once it's adopted, there are still some timeline stipulations of getting projects approved.
Yeah.
Through the government agencies, which we are one of. So
yeah. Let me double check on that. I know. Are you talking about land division specifically? Because I think there may be a land division provision about. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with House Bill 2001, there's a new land division process in there that may. So I think you're talking about that scenario.
right.
So I can follow up with you on that. So.
Okay, thank you.
But, yeah. So any other questions? Okay.
Any other Any other notes for anybody? If not, our next meeting is scheduled for, is it on the calendar? Where's our next meeting?
I believe it's actually the 15th,
15th. Okay.
which is the day before planning commission. So
Oh.
let me confirm that on my calendar. That is correct. So the next meeting is the 15th. The planning commission meeting would be the 16th. And so
So we're probably gonna be virtual still then?
correct. So far, because of Omicron, everything has gone back virtual. There was talk of going to hybrid, and a few weeks ago, we decided to do a hard reverse on that for now. So just to keep everyone safe. So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Good. Well, I think 8:17, we can call this meeting adjourned. And we'll
Okay.
see everybody on the 15th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
Jay Willie's.
Enjoy Jay Willie's.
I
I'll see if I
totally
can
go,
make
but you
it.
know I can't go.
I can't go. I'm technically in quarantine because we had a COVID exposure over the weekend. So, and the
Oh,
kid's
boy.
feeling sick. So I think we got our test tomorrow.
Oh,
We'll see.
Oh,
I got no
careful.
symptoms, but you know,
alcohol kills it. Alcohol kills it.